Well, I must say, this past weekend was certainly one for the Great Yellow One. And yes, this is the only time when I'm saying that I'm referencing the Great Pac-Man and not SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm RidersDX and I got the insane opportunity to play Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac early at this year's PAX West. A whole month before the game came out, and let me tell you, I am one lucky man, and not just because of that. So to get into what happened, basically at this convention, I was labeled as a content creator. And as a content creator, you get the chance to go to the show floor 1 hour early before everyone else on the first day of the convention. And so I went there at 9 a.m. and me and Pac went straight over to Pac-Man World 2. I would have probably typically done Nintendo, but Nintendo actually did this like warp pass thing this year, so I had appointments lined up for Kirby and Pokemon, so I was like, let's go to Pac-Man. It was such a great choice in hindsight because later on this convention, the line for this booth was crazy. I would not have had a chance to play it again. So I get to Pac-Man, right? And Zach and I are the very first people at that booth. So we are literally the first people to play Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac at PAX West. And let me tell you, this is when the luck really starts to blossom in my eyes. This demo had two full-blown levels, one on the chill mode, which is like the easy mode of the game, and one the challenging mode, which is more so like the normal mode of this game. And I got to play through the entirety of both, except I wasn't supposed to. The demo was supposed to cap at 15 minutes, which it actually did for Zach. What's really funny is if you watch the footage I uploaded, a rep actually came up to me in the middle of that footage and told me I wasn't supposed to play that long, but I kind of slyly was like, well, I'm almost done. Can you just let me play the whole thing? And then she was like, sure. So shout out to that rep because I feel like one very lucky man thanks to you. What can I say? Maybe I'm part Irish. Who knows? So I tell you this story to instill the fact that I am probably the only person that got to play this entire demo, at least that I know of at this convention. So let's talk about it. Going to this experience is very similar for someone like me who's literally made a platform off of talking about nostalgic remakes of old platformers. I mean, I've talked about the Crash remake, the Spyro remake, SpongeBob off Bikini Bottom's a huge one. Epic Mickey is a recent one that I talked about. However, I never got to play Pac-Man World 2 as a kid, so that does leave me at a bit of a disadvantage as I can't actually like respect and be amazed by the changes that are being made from the original game. To top it all off, I've never actually been a huge Pac-Man fan in the first place. I mean, yes, everyone and their mom has played that classic arcade game, especially at the local arcades, so I do know of Pac-Man. I have played Pac-Man before, but does that mean I'm a fan of Pac-Man like I am of Crash Bandicoot? No. So all I can do here is actually talk about the actual experience itself. As someone who grew up with a lot of platformers that came out around this time, Pac-Man World 2 seems like a game that would have fit easily into my catalog of games. I could have played it right next to Sunshine and Battle for Bikini Bottom. You have full 360 control of Pac-Man as you run around the world collecting items and getting to the goal. Pac-Man has a lot of interesting moves, but I wouldn't say there's something here in particular that really sets it apart from other platformers of its kin, but nonetheless, it controls very fluidly and I was able to pick up on the things really quickly. I will say what I enjoyed most about Pac-Man's gameplay is actually much of the same stuff that I enjoyed from the first Re-Pac, which I'm playing through right now, and that is the stuff that feels very inherently Pac-Man. Like there's this one part of the game where you eat this like big yellow ball and you turn into that classic Pac-Man that eats those ghosts, and I'm just like, this is what makes this a Pac-Man game, and this is the stuff that the game really needs to like expand on and do lots of to make this stand out amongst the crowd of platformers, because this is always a fun time. Speaking of the first Re-Pac, I actually am surprised if anything about how similar this feels to the first Re-Pac, which sounds like a stupid statement because it's a sequel to Re-Pac, so of course it's gonna feel very similar, but it's in the sense that like I've seen footage of this original game many times in my life, and it seems like a game that would be really different from the first one because the whole like angle, the whole like scope of this game is so much bigger than the first game. The first game felt like the original Crash Bandicoot, while this game feels like Crash Twinsanity. So it just honestly, I went into it thinking it was gonna be a fully different game, and it is a different game, but it still maintains a lot of the same mechanics and features of the original Pac-Man World. So it is a very well done sequel in that sense as well. I'm obviously going to prefer 2 though because these are just the kind of games I grew up on as a kid. I mean, I love me a sandbox 3D platformer. Everything about this game felt strangely nostalgic despite the fact I never played this game before, and that is because everything from the gameplay down to the graphics and presentation feels like it was part of a game that I did grow up on. This game also has full-on voice acting, which I believe wasn't a feature of the original World 2, and the scripting writing and the acting and the tone of this game, it honestly feels like a classic 2000s Sonic the Hedgehog game. Like, it really feels like a script that you could have seen in Sonic Heroes. In fact, playing Pac-Man and listening to his voice, I honestly felt like I was listening to Sonic in some weird alternate dimension, so it just makes the crossover that's going to be featured in this game that much more interesting. Now, something I can't speak about, but I can still really appreciate is how the fact that this is not a one-to-one remake, but actually is a remake with a lot of different changes and additions to it. I've heard that there are numerous differences from how the levels are being made in this game compared to original, with full-on new sections being added to this game and also new bosses. And if I could be honest here for a second, I really wish Rehydrate was made in this way. Like, listen, I love the original game, so I love that's a one-to-one remake, but I wanted to fight Robot Squidward. I wanted to do that. Without going too off topic, I really think it's awesome that this game is not only trying to stay faithful to original, but also is trying to make it an overall better experience. I've always been a firm believer that if you don't like the remake, you can always go for the original. So I really don't like the idea of developers feeling like they have to be completely faithful to the original game, because honestly, we already have an original game. So if you have ideas and you have a way of making this game better than the original and you want to take it, then you should take that risk. Even if it does fall flat on your face, you know, at least we'll always have the original to play with. And that's why I love like the Epic Mickey Rebrush remake, for instance, because while it took everything from the original game, it made a lot of adjustments and a lot of like quality of life improvements to make that a much better game compared to original. And I will stand by that fact. The Rebrush remake is a lot better than original. The only reason this would be a bad idea is if the game was worse, but I played Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac and it is a fun time, so I really don't have that concern for this game. It really does feel like they got the gameplay down, they got the overall feel of it down. It's going to be a solid game. Whether or not it's faithful to original is looking less and less likely as I keep playing and seeing stuff about this game, but honestly, it's a really fun game on its own from what I'm seeing so far. So, you know, maybe people that played original will prefer this one, but I can also understand, as someone who grew up with the original Valve Bikini Bottom, I was never going to prefer that remake. There was no way that I was going to overdo the remake, in my opinion. The only time that that's the case is if the original was actually bad, which from my understanding, Pac-Man World 2 was not a bad game, but it wasn't a perfect game. So maybe people will actually end up preferring this remake. We'll just have to see. But yeah, my overall thoughts is that like it was a very solid adventure, and I think that Pac-Man fans don't have anything to worry about when it comes to like whether or not this will be a quality game. It is a quality game, and I'm looking forward to playing through the entire thing when it comes out at the end of September. I also probably will revisit the original Pac-Man World 2 at some point, just because I'm very curious as to like what are the changes they made from that game to this, as I'm hearing and reading from all your comments that there are a ton of changes. So that's pretty much everything I had to say. If you had any questions about what I played at PAX West, then let me know in the comment section below and I can definitely do my best to answer them. But honestly, the game's out in just a few weeks at this point, so we'll all get our hands on it at some point anyway. So get excited, because I think you can expect a good game. That's my overall sentiment, is that this is a good game. People are going to enjoy it. You don't have anything to worry about in terms of it being a complete hot mess. So yeah, that's everything I have to say. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to stay up to date about what I'm talking about when it comes to this game. I'm definitely going to cover it when it comes out. We just have to see how all that pans out. But alright, y'all, thanks so much. This is Riders, riding out.